Indigenous education programs across the province of British Columbia currently serve and support approximately 62,000 students, which generates a whopping $500 million per year in funding to school districts. And these numbers are just the start because the national Indigenous population is increasing by a rate of 5 times the non-Indigenous population, which translates into greater number of Indigenous students in the system and ultimately larger amounts of ministry monies to support these students. The Ministry of Education also mandates that this targeted money must be utilized to support and service Indigenous students, but most importantly and very uniquely, documentation of service must be documented on an ongoing or monthly basis for every single student in each district. In other words, Indigenous education programs have to prove somehow that they service and support every student in every school on an ongoing basis throughout the school year. And in order to keep districts accountable, random audits are performed every single year. And every year, thousands and thousands of dollars are lost through this process. The problem is that the recently created BC-wide student data collection program, My Education BC, doesn't offer any type of intuitive or robust documentation tool. In fact, if one would like to add a documentation of service for a single student in MyEd, it would take 11 clicks plus a series of text entries. In all reality, MyEd is not designed for documentation of service, but rather more designed for collection of student data such as contact information, grades, and attendance, among other things. Indigenous education programs drastically need something to help prevent the annual ministry clawbacks that result in thousands and thousands of dollars through the audit process every single year, and they need it now. These are dollars that are absolutely precious and incredibly important to providing quality education for Indigenous students and their families. Indiginize Ed Solutions is just that. A BC-situated cloud-based documentation tool supported via mobile app and computer-based program that is specifically designed for Indigenous education programs. Indiginize Ed Solutions allows educators to quickly and conveniently and intuitively document the service provided to their students. The program, for example, allows students to enter one documentation log for as few as one specific student, or hundreds for a larger, say, for example, class-wide or school-wide service that's provided. Take, for example, a teacher who brings a student or brings 30 students on a field trip. Rather than input 30 different documentation notes, our program, Indiginize Ed Solutions, allows users to enter one generic note for multiple students, a quick and efficient way to mass document. The program also offers user-friendly controls such as selecting students in a school or all students in a particular class, or even selecting by grade. We utilize learning analytics and big data to track when certain students, say, haven't been documented within a certain amount of days. Educators can then be made aware of that particular student and go and make contact and document the good work that they're doing with that particular student. Of course, Indiginize Ed Solutions also offers users the ability to date and timestamp each individual documentation, and most importantly, the program has a tool that conveniently produces a PDF report showcasing all of the services provided to each individual student, but also services provided by ancestry, grade, and school. This is incredibly important from an audit compliance perspective because when an audit team comes in to review the service provided to each individual student they're looking for a tight report to be generated instantly, not a collection of scattered notes in a logbook or a journal. Having a well-organized digital documentation report is exactly what any audit team is looking for. Additionally, the ability for an Indigenous education program to review the level of service provided to its Indigenous populations across the district in an in-depth and unique perspective will definitely shed light on the types of services provided to all of the students from a district-wide perspective. The bottom line is that our program is a documentation wizard that allows educators to do exactly what they do best, build relationships and focus on educating their students, as opposed to spending all of their time tediously and nervously documenting every interaction and every moment of their day. I think I've made a pretty strong case for why this product is a solid investment. But if you're not convinced, let's consider the competition. Indigenous education programs in schools all over the province are doing everything they can to protect their monies allocated to them from the Ministry of Education. Indiginize Ed Solutions is the only documentation product on the market in British Columbia, not to mention the first to market. There exists no other BC-based online documentation program, let alone a program that is accessible across mobile and computing platforms specifically designed for Indigenous education programs. This program was specifically created to meet the ministry audit requirements. And while there may exist some tools that are available in the United States, such as Jupyter Grades, this could be considered the competition. All of the data of those programs is housed outside of British Columbia and as such does not meet ministry standards with respect to student data privacy. Indiginize Ed Solutions is in a prime place to capitalize on a huge market deficiency in a very niche market. The online documentation of Indigenous education is essential in order to ensure fiscal responsibility and financial security, not to mention that this market is forecasted to increase in size as the population of Indigenous students continues to rise. So who is the market, and what is our plan for rolling out Indiginize Ed Solutions? First and foremost, as you already know, our market starts right here in British Columbia. Our first step will be to showcase and market our product at province-wide professional development seminars and conferences such as FINESC and Inspire. These are Indigenous-focused educational conferences that bring in thousands of educators that are working in the field, and thus would be a prime opportunity for us to showcase and pitch Indiginize Ed Solutions to interested prospective buyers. From these showcases, we will meet with Indigenous educators, administrators, directors of instructions, and potentially superintendents to pilot our program. Our target prospective market will start right here, at the local school district level, where educators can pilot the program and experience the benefit of an all-in-one intuitive documentation program. Our next step would be to meet with superintendents of school districts that we have not already secured and showcase with them the positive user feedback and testimonials to further market and pitch Indiginize Ed Solutions. It's our belief that ultimately, once we have a number of districts on board speaking highly about our program and our product, that ultimately we'll be able to pick up BC entirely, and from there, spread across Western Canada and ultimately be Canada's leading Indigenous education documentation service. Indiginize Ed Solutions is backed by a strong team that has all the bases covered to be a successful startup company. Let's start with myself. I'm the CEO and founder of Indiginize Ed Solutions, and I came up with this idea for the company after 12 years of struggling to adequately document service to Indigenous students and ultimately inadequately meeting the demands of ministry audit compliance year after year. My 12 years of contextual experience in this field has afforded me a unique vision to see a niche market demand and get this EdTech startup company up and running. And I'm excited to tell you about who's backing me. I got Ashley Judd and Ryan Lalonde, my sister and brother-in-law that have 10 plus years of marketing, sales, business experience in the Vancouver real estate marketing industry. Ryan was the president and partner of MLA Canada, Western Canada's single largest real estate marketing company, and his wife Ashley was the vice president of sales. This power couple has evolved from individual realtors to industry leaders with a wealth of business, sales, and marketing understanding. After more than 10 years in the real estate marketing industry, the two were looking for a change of pace. I pitched them my idea, they understood the potential of Indiginize Ed Solutions, and they've jumped in to offer their support, guidance, and expertise. Finally, our team is anchored by Igor Plavina. Igor is a computer software engineer, network specialist, UX designer, and an app creator who previously worked as a director of technology for School District 67. Igor is the brains behind the software and has played a fundamental role in the digital development of Indiginize Ed Solutions. Indiginize Ed Solutions is tapping into a $500 million and growing market that currently does not have any local, BC, or Canadian competition. The market is absolutely primed for our product, and you as an investor are in a prime position to offer seed funding. Thus, we are currently seeking seed monies from investors in the amount of $750,000. This seed investment will directly be utilized to cover the cost of cloud-based server space, marketing and sales costs, team salaries, and continued product development and refinement, and ultimately future expansion of the company in terms of employees to help keep up with the growing market and product demand that we absolutely think is going to happen with Indiginize Ed Solutions. So why should you invest in Indiginize Ed Solutions? Well, the first two niche market status that we already have and the lack of competition make investing in our company a fantastic opportunity for potential seed investors. Not to mention the fact that school districts and Indigenous education programs province-wide are desperately seeking for ways to protect their targeted dollars by improving their approach to documentation and ultimately being better prepared for audit compliance. Indiginize Ed Solutions will be made available this next coming school year, the 2019-2020 year, at a per student price of $50, which is a measly 0.05% of the allotted $1,100 of ministry funding per Indigenous student and over 60,000 students and guaranteed growth in the future. Indiginize Ed Solutions has a market potential in British Columbia alone of over $3 million on an annual basis. Should we capitalize on BC, which we plan to, the first-to-market status combined with our proven market growth and user satisfaction could propel us and likely will propel us into Western Canada and probably across the country, which would value our company at over $40 million per year. Investors, the time is now. Get in while you still can. Indiginize Ed Solutions is primed for huge growth.